So in this video, I'm going to give you everything you need to be able to generate new leads, new sales calls for your company using LinkedIn as a platform. This is perfect for growing companies who really want to own when and how they generate new leads and inquiries. So instead of having to rely on referrals for growth, you just have a system that you can turn off and on when you need it to give you a steady stream of new leads consistently. LinkedIn is the perfect platform to do that for B2B companies. I'm going to talk you through everything you need to be able to understand principally how and why it works and how also to execute on that. So by the end of this video, you are going to be an expert. You're going to understand everything that needs to be done. And I guarantee if you follow the steps that I lay out in this video, you will be able to generate leads and sales calls on your terms whenever you need them. Now, as this is an ultimate guide, it has a lot of information in it. So what I've done is I've listed chapters in the description below, and you should be able to see that at the playhead at the bottom of the video. So if you're going through something and you're like, I already know this, by all means, skip forward to a section in the video that is going to help you. But there's a lot in this video, so use that navigation to get to where you need to be. Now, there are 3 core ways that you can generate new leads on LinkedIn, and those 3 core ways are manual lead generation, advertising, and content. I'm going to give you a very high level overview of all 3 right now, and then we're going to go into more depth in a second, just so you understand the fundamental principles and the core approaches. So first off, we have manual lead generation. You've probably seen this before, people doing it to you. Someone will message you directly, so they'll connect with you and then send you a message, or they'll use Sales Navigator to send you an in-mail message. So the pros of manual lead generation are that it's really, really cheap to begin with. You don't need things like ad spend, and it's also highly controlled. So generally speaking, there's 2 ways to do manual lead generation, and that is to do it manually to find someone and then directly message them yourself personally. And there are a whole suite of automation tools. I hear of new ones every single day that you can also use to automate this process. But you can be highly targeted with this approach. So when you discover people or you're looking for people who you want to directly message, you can be really specific with your search criteria in Sales Navigator, which is traditionally how you would find these people. And I'm going to talk you through that in a little bit later in this video. But you'd be really specific, and as a result, you know that the people you're reaching out to are qualified. They're qualified in terms of them being the right sort of people you'd want to work with. Before you've even opened a conversation with them, you know that. So that's the advantage. The disadvantage to manual lead generation is it's massively time consuming. Obviously, you can take a huge element of the time consuming factor out of manual lead generation if you use automation tools. However, you still need an element of manual interaction to keep it going. On top of that, it's becoming less and less effective the more and more people that do it. So as you get more and more people direct messaging you and sending you pitches in your inbox every day, that just becomes white noise slowly and steadily. When people first started doing this as an activity, it worked really well because there weren't many people doing it, so you sort of stood out. But now everyone does it, so you really need to go above and beyond. Don't get me wrong, it still works. We used it to get our company off the ground. However, it is becoming less effective and you have to put in more effort. I'll tell you how you do that later on in the video. This approach is also really hard to scale, unfortunately. So because of its manual nature, you need to hire a load of different people to do it. So good for starting out, not as great for scaling if you want to increase growth at an exponential rate. Additionally, LinkedIn has limits as to the amount of people you can connect with, you can message, etc., which can also limit your scale. Next up, we have advertising. This is a really useful way to generate new leads and sales calls for your company. And there are, again, pros and cons. The pros are it's really, really easy to get quick results. You can turn on an ad campaign and within a day or so, in fact, we've had it where within an hour, you're starting to get results. You're starting to get leads, you're starting to get people booking demos or sales calls for your company. It's also massively scalable. So whatever you do, you just increase ad spend, and there will obviously be a limit whereby you can't add any more ad spend, but you can scale it up very quickly. As soon as it starts working, just go, okay, more money into that, and just boom, done. And also it runs on autopilot. So you set it up and then it just runs in the background. You can be doing nothing and just be getting, boom, every single day, just getting requests, getting leads, etc. Obviously, it still needs manual interaction. You need to refresh the ads, but it's more autopilot than other approaches. The cons of advertising is that it costs a lot of money. So if you're just starting out and you're trying to figure out how to advertise your service, generally speaking, manual lead generation is way better because you have a hands-on approach. You can start to understand your audience and figure out what works in a really simple way. I'm going to talk through this again later, but once you have figured that out, that's when advertising is good. A lot of people jump into advertising first because it's on autopilot, it's scalable, it's really quick results, but they haven't figured out what makes people want to get in contact with their company, usually because they've been relying on referrals for a long time. So they end up wasting a lot of money, and LinkedIn ads are very expensive. So it's right, but it's right for a certain point of the journey. And I'm going to talk you through that again, as I say, later in the video. The last approach I'm going to talk about is content. So content marketing is a fantastic way on LinkedIn to, again, bring in new leads, requests, etc., things like that. And that comes with its own suite of pros and cons. So the pros of content marketing on LinkedIn to generate new leads is you can get really bought in leads. So if someone's been looking at your content for the last 6 months and then they decide to get in contact, for the most part, they're usually pre-sold. They already trust you, they already know you, they feel that they know you, they are pre-sold on whatever you've got. So the sales process is super easy. People will just get on a call and be like, I just want you to do, I know you know your stuff, I'm gonna give you some money, just do it for me. So that's the pros of content marketing. The cons of content marketing are that most people never get to the point whereby they start actually seeing leads. You can put in a huge amount of time and huge amount of effort with no guaranteed results. Some people, don't get me wrong, they will break through, they will make it, and they will get a following, they'll get traction, but there are other people I've seen posting for years, trying and not getting anywhere. Now that could be down to their approach, don't get me wrong, the approach might be wrong, and if you get the approach wrong with any of these, if you get your approach wrong with manual lead generation where you just try to sell immediately, or with ads, again, where you just try to sell immediately, or with content where it's just generic crappy content, it won't work. However, it's the least reliable of the three in my personal opinion. It is, however, a good supporting way to generate leads and inquiries. Now, as a result of those pros and cons, in this guide, I'm going to cover manual lead generation and advertising. And the reason I'm going to focus on those two is because they are the ones that get you results. It's way easier to guarantee results from those two approaches, and you also get results way quicker. So that's why I'm going to cover those two, because we want to get you guys leads and we want to get you sales calls. Now, before we start on any approach of generating leads, we need to get the principles right, the foundations. And once you have those principles and foundations right, then what you'll actually start to find is that any approach, whether this be on LinkedIn or SEO, PPC, cold calling, whatever you want to do, it all starts to work better because you have a solid set of foundations. So I'm going to talk you through what you need to understand first before you start jumping into the tactics. Do not skip this section because this is the most important part, and this is truly where you determine whether you're going to see any success or not. So firstly and most importantly, you really need to understand your target audience. Who is it you're trying to reach out to? And this shouldn't be broad. This isn't stuff like, well, we want to speak to business owners of small companies, because that doesn't mean anything. That's way too broad. The more specific you can be and the more accurately you can describe your ideal customer, the better your manual lead generation will go, because you'll waste less time contacting people who aren't qualified. Because every reach out to someone or every penny you spend on ad spend is going to be wasted if you're too broad and you're not laser focused in on who it is exactly as your perfect customer. So at a very foundational level, you need to understand, what roles do I need to speak to? What company sizes do I want to ideally go after? And a lot of the time you'll find this will change. So you might have a range of, well, we want to speak to company sizes of 2 to 100. That's our sweet spot. But you might find if the company size is 2 to 10, you want to speak to the founder of the company. If it's 10 to 50, you then want to start speaking to maybe the head of HR or something like that, because the responsibilities change as the companies grow, okay? So you need to understand that sort of information. If you want to go into even more depth, you should understand the type of skills that person would have, qualifications they tend to have. You should even start to understand what their companies start to look like. So do they have a presence online that's good? Do they have a social media presence? Like, you should understand all this stuff. You should also look into just the personalities of the people you want to speak to. Are they forward thinking? Do they like certain speakers, etc., etc.? The more you understand, the easier it will be to, for example, with manual lead generation, when you go onto someone's profile to see if to make the decision whether they're qualified or not, that decision will become really quick and it'll become more accurate if you understand your target audience. So I cannot stress this enough. Really determine who your exact ideal customer avatar is. You might have several, but really map them out and make them as specific as possible. Now, I really hope you're enjoying the video so far. Before we continue, I just want to remind you, my company, Tech Growth Marketing, we're currently giving away free growth strategy sessions. We go through everything you're doing with your marketing at present, help you identify what's going wrong, and then tell you what you can do to improve growth. Entirely free, link in the description below. Let's continue with the video. Next up, you need to understand what your value proposition is. I've heard it before where I speak to a company, I say, tell me what your company does. And they say, well, it's really complicated actually. So, and then a 5-minute conversation ensues as to what they do. And by the end of that 5-minute conversation, I'll be honest, most of the time, I still don't understand. A value proposition needs to be really, really simple and easy to understand. It needs to convey to someone what it is you do. If you can't explain your value proposition to someone in a sentence or two, you don't understand it yourself. And if you don't understand it, it's really hard to get other people on board. So your value proposition should be easily explained in 2 sentences. I'm going to give you the structure you can use to write out your value proposition. The value proposition, at least foundationally and like very high level, should be achieve X result in Y time period without whatever it is they're currently experiencing that is painful to them, they don't want to be experiencing. That is your value proposition. You are helping them get their desired outcome, which is the main thing your target audience wants, in a certain time period without them having to do something they hate. That's usually your value proposition. You can have variations of that, don't get me wrong, but you need to fully understand what your value proposition is. Beyond your value proposition, you also need a bribe. So to get someone to open up a conversation with you, especially if it's outbound, if it's manual lead generation or advertising, or even content, whatever that may be, usually you need a hook to get them to come in. It's very, very unlikely, in B2B at least, that someone is going to see your company and then immediately get in contact with you and say, I want a quote. It can happen, don't get me wrong, but it's very, very unlikely, or it's not a good way to run manual lead generation or advertising or anything like that. What you need is you need a bribe. So the value proposition I previously spoke of, we're going to help you achieve result in time period without XYZ. You need to then frame in a bribe. So our bribe, I'm going to be fully transparent about this, is a free growth strategy session, which you can apply for at Tech Growth Marketing. There's a link in the description below. And what we do on our free growth strategy sessions is we will go through everything your company is currently doing, and then we'll figure out how you make it better. All of your marketing, whatever you're struggling with now, we'll tell you why you're struggling with it, and then we'll tell you exactly what you need to do to resolve that problem. That's our hook, that's our bribe. We're going to get you in for free, we're going to give you loads of information for free. We're not even going to pitch you, because we don't even pitch people anymore, but a certain percentage of the people who get in contact with us go, you guys are fantastic, we want to use you, here's our service, please can we use your services? That needs to be your bribe. You need something that's very, very front loaded with loads of value for the prospect. It needs to be really enticing, absolutely irresistible, and you need something like that to draw people in. Getting a free quote or something like that is usually not a nice hook or a bribe. It can be that, but it needs to be framed in a way, at least framed in a way, whereby it gives a lot of value to your prospect. So understand your bribe as well as your value proposition. Now, true success in any sort of manual lead generation or automated lead generation where you create new sales calls or leads for your company, most of the success of any approach comes down to those 3 factors. Nothing to do with what you're actually doing, the tactics or anything. Fundamentally, if you get those 3 things I just talked through correct, whatever approach you choose will be way easier. If you decided to skip this section of the video, then you'll find whatever you do is going to be way more difficult. It might not even work because you haven't got the foundations right. So very important part of the video, probably the most important part. But having said that, you also need tactics and you need step-by-step as to what to do. So we're going to go through that now. So let's talk through manual lead generation. How does this work? I'm going to talk through how you do it manually. There are automation tools you can use. I will show some on the screen. It's up to you whether you want to use them. The process you go through is exactly the same. You just get a bot to automate sections of it, right? It is against LinkedIn's guidelines, so you can get your account banned. So it's entirely your choice whether you choose to use an automation tool or not. However, what you want to do when you're generating leads is, first off, you need to find people who you want to get in contact with. So to do this, the best way you can do it is through Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator has a free trial that you can use if you haven't already used it, or you can pay on a monthly basis. If you're regularly doing manual lead generation, I would highly suggest just keeping your Sales Navigator account open. We have for the last 2 years or so. don't even blink an eye. It's absolutely fantastic. The purpose of using Sales Navigator is to identify the people you need to speak to. You can use other tools to identify people you need to speak to. There's things, platforms such as UpLead. You could even use Google. So for example, if you were looking to target cleaning companies, then you would just type in, I live in Hampshire in the UK, so I type in Hampshire cleaning companies, boop, and then it would come up with a list of companies, and then I could just go into LinkedIn, search that company, and find the name of the person who ran the company. I'm like, that's who I need to speak to, as an example. But Sales Navigator is a really quick and easy way of identifying those people. So firstly, we're going to go into Sales Navigator and we're going to type in one of our customer avatars. So we understand the company size, we understand the industry, the job role, etc. We put in as much information as we can to get our list as specific as possible to our ideal customer avatar. That will give us a list of people who are the exact people we need to speak to. So that's the first step of the process, identifying people we want to get in contact with. The next step of the process is to reach out to that person. So traditionally what you would do is you would send them a connection request. Now, a lot of people do a message with the connection request. Hey, I happen to see blah, blah, blah. Would you like to connect, or something like that? It's cheesy as hell, it puts people off. In our personal opinion, we have tested this. We've tried no message, and we've tried message, and we've tried a whole host of different messages. No message performs equally as well, if not better, than message. Skip the message, it's off-putting, okay? So send a connection request to that person. If the person connects, you now have the ability to send them a message for free because they are in your network. There are limits as to how many people you can connect with on a daily basis, hence one of the cons of manual lead generation. It's really hard to scale. So once they've accepted the connection request, you can send them a message. Now the message needs to follow a few principles. It varies dramatically from industry to industry. If you want to get in contact with us, as I say, free marketing strategy call below, we can tell you what would be good for your exact industry. We also have templates that we give out to our consultation clients. So if you just want a template of everything you need to say, get in contact with us, be fully upfront. It's £1,000 for us to give all of that to you, like all of our templates, everything. But you send them a message, and the message needs to follow the following principles. It needs to be really short. If it's a massive block of text, it's not going to work. It should be really short, simple to read, 1 or 2 lines, paragraph, 1 or 2 lines, easy. It shouldn't be selling your whole solution. It should be asking a question. That question should be a yes or no question. And that's pretty much it. Oh, and also you need personalization in there. So when you reach out to them, instead of copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, you want to look at their profile, find something about them that you can comment on. So a recent post they had, maybe their company's currently growing, and congratulate them on that. You can go to their company's website, find some feature on their website you really like the look of, comment on something that actually takes a bit of effort, because this is going to set you aside from all the people who use automation bots who just copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and it's soulless. By adding a bit of soul and personalization, people will connect with it way better. So personalization, really short, ask a question, because you're trying to, essentially the first step is opening the conversation and semi-qualifying them, not selling anything. And then once they respond, you can then continue that conversation by either asking more questions or pushing them into a call by saying, this sounds fantastic, would you like a call? Whenever you propose a call, I'd strongly advise using Calendly. We've tested Calendly and we've tested giving them a list of times. Calendly always converts better. Some people say you should give them both. So you should say you can have these times, or you can pick a time using Calendly. You need to test in your own industry what works best for you, because it is different in different industries. Now, when you follow up, let's say you sent that message, no one responds. Do you follow up? Do you not follow up? Well, yes, you should follow up, because there are a lot of people who will read a message, go, that's actually quite interesting. I don't have the time right now. Phone down, never think of it again. So what you do want to do is you want to send 1 to 2 follow-ups. You don't want to be needy though. We have found the best way to follow up is just by sending a GIF, a funny GIF, that's it. Either someone waving, something like the John Travolta one, just looking around like, what's going on? Something like that, something funny, light-hearted. You're not needy, you're not saying, oh, please respond to me. You're just one GIF, that's it, putting it out there. It's a little bit funny. You'll get a far higher response rate to that than anything else. A lot of people, even when you send a GIF, they'll get back to you and say, thank you, but I'm not interested. Absolutely fine. They've qualified themselves as not being interested. Close it, you don't need to contact them anymore. So how can we make this even better? Well, I've mentioned what you need to put in your messages. I mentioned how to follow up properly, how to connect properly, etc. And also we have our templates that you can get straight off us if you want to. But what else can we do that is going to improve results? Well, if you want to improve results even further through manual lead generation, you want to be omnipresent. You want to hit people from multiple directions. So we want to send things on LinkedIn, And then we also want to send things via email. If you can do both of those things at the same time and reference each other, so on email say, hey, I've been trying to reach out to you on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn say, hey, I sent you an email about this the other day. Then all of a sudden it becomes omnipresent. You're really trying to get in contact with them, and that really helps you stand out. So that's a fantastic way of doing that. There is a way to automate this whole process, email and LinkedIn, and that is a platform called Lemlist. I'm a massive fan of Lemlist. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But you can build sequences whereby it says, send an email on this day, send a connection request the next day, then send a message over here, then send an email, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And by doing that, you massively, massively increase the response rate of your manual lead generation. Now, how do you get emails from Sales Navigator? So for example, there's a whole load of ways you can do this, but one way you can get it is by using a few programs such as one's called Pippi Leads. So what you would do is you would use Sales Navigator, and there's a plugin, Pippi Leads, and what Pippi Leads does is you set your search criteria, press a button, and it will try and find the email addresses of all the people you've put in your search criteria. So that gives you a mailing list that you can then manually reach out to. Some countries have limitations on manual outreach. So for example, Canada, you cannot cold outreach to people, but in the UK and the US, as an example, you can at present time of recording this video. So that's absolutely fine to do. You just need to ensure that it's a work email. You are not allowed to manually reach out on personal emails. So to figure out if it's a work email, you can use a program such as Zero Bounce. And that is manual lead generation. It's that simple. The only thing you need to consider is, obviously all the foundational principles, that will be the thing that really makes it hook. Obviously, in those messages, as we discussed before, you need to be stating your value proposition in that really short way. You need to be using your hook or your offer, not in the first message. As I said before, the first message is about opening up the conversation with a single yes or no question to get them to then respond to you. But then you want to be using your value proposition or your hook to get them on a call. But you need to go through this process over and over again. And every time you go through this cycle of finding a list of people, connecting with them, messaging with them, following up, you will get better and better. Your search criteria will get more and more accurate. Just as you go through, you'll learn these sorts of people might get on calls, but they don't convert very well. These sorts of people never respond to us. So you refine your audience, and that's why it's fantastic to start with manual lead generation, because the feedback loop is way better because you're hands-on. So you get that information, and also you will become better at every aspect. You'll A/B test things, you'll try different opening messages, you'll find that one responds better than the other. You'll try different emails, you'll try different timings of sending messages, etc., and it will constantly get better. The reason this doesn't work for a lot of people is either that they automate it with no effort and it's just lackluster, or they just give up. They go through it one time and go, well, that didn't work. And it's like, yeah, it didn't work because you haven't been through any iteration to try and improve upon it. So just be aware that you have to go through iteration to improve your approach, but that applies to any approach. In fact, that applies to the whole of business. So next up is LinkedIn ads. This is a fantastic way to automate the whole process. So you don't really have to do anything. You just press a button, press go on the campaign, sit back. You can be in your sleep, getting inquiries, getting leads. It's fantastic. As I said before though, towards the start of the video, this is a fantastic thing to do once you can manually generate leads and sales calls. If you can't do it manually, the chance of being able to automate it are very slim unless you really know what you're doing, okay? So LinkedIn ads, fantastic way of automating the whole process. I'm gonna tell you everything you need to do that. However, if you're just starting out, I would really strongly advise trying manual just so you have that hands-on approach to be able to understand everything a bit better. Now, how do LinkedIn ads work? We have a whole separate other video, a LinkedIn Ultimate Guides video, which is similar to this in terms of the amount of information, which tells you everything you need to do to run every ad campaign you would need to getting started, okay? So if you want to really dive into LinkedIn ads, watch that video. It gets a lot of positive feedback. However, I'm going to high level go over what you would need to do if you were running LinkedIn ads. So if you're going to run LinkedIn ads, there's a very simple structure you need to follow. Firstly, you obviously need to have your value proposition. You need to have your lost my words. You need to have your bribe. And once you have all that stuff, you can then roll it out to LinkedIn ads. What you would do with LinkedIn ads is you would put in, using the audience builder, you put in all the ideal criteria you have for your target audience. Again, this is why you have to be really specific in identifying who your target audience is. You would put that in, and then you would run ads to a cold audience. Now, the ads you run to a cold audience should be very heavily focused on pain points. They should drive massive intrigue. and they should be using your bribe, okay, essentially. But the main purpose of that initial set of ads is to usually highlight people who have the problem in your target audience who you can then remarket to. So that can be running people to a high converting landing page where you have your bribe, your offer. But that doesn't always work. Sometimes you need to go higher up the funnel. So the top of the funnel is about identifying people in your target audience who have the problem you resolve. Once you have those ads running, some people convert on those ads. Absolutely fantastic. But the true success comes with remarketing. And all you're doing here really is replicating exactly what I talked about in manual lead generation. The first message you send, remember, is a question. And essentially that question is to start qualifying people. All you're doing is automating this process through ads. So the first set of ads, pain points, qualifying people. The next set of ads, and this is where most people go wrong, they just do that top layer and wonder why it doesn't work, is remarketing. You remarket to the people who were on that top layer, who interacted with your ads, who visited your webpage, who opened a lead form, and you remarket to them with consideration ads. Consideration ads need to address the beliefs people have that stop them from getting in contact with you. So for example, with a marketing agency, we've used other marketing agencies before, we've been burned. With a company that does office fit outs, it might be, we can just buy all our stuff from IKEA, easy. You would need to address those beliefs that people have that stop them getting in contact with you in this consideration layer. So you address beliefs that people have. These are common objections or reasons that people won't commit to reaching out to you. It's all part of market research. And then next up, you want to build trust with that audience. So you want pieces of content that build trust. You want sometimes educational or entertaining content, again, to build trust. You want to explain what your service does so that they become more familiar with you. You just basically want to cover every single thing that they would have in terms of considering to use your service. Once you've done that for a period of time, people will interact with those middle layer of ads. Once they've interacted with that middle layer of ads, you remarket again with conversion ads. These are usually things like lead generation ads, or their conversation ads, message ads, where you go directly into someone's inbox and pitch them to use your service. But at this point, when you're sending, and this is an automated function through LinkedIn, a fully official thing in the ad platform, the difference is when you're sending this ad, you know they've visited your website, they've opened a lead form, you know they've seen all the ads that talk about your service. So they've probably been interacting with your content and seeing you consistently for a month or two at this point before the message is sent. So they're fully warmed up. Which is why it's such an incredibly powerful way. Now you get people converting at each layer of that funnel. However, the amount of people that convert each layer increases, or the percentage massively increases. So you need all three layers to have huge success with LinkedIn ads. And that's it. Those are the ways you can generate leads on your terms, sales calls, whatever you need for your company utilizing LinkedIn. It's incredibly simple. And as I said before at the start of the video, the main place that people slip up is they miss the foundations. So if you're one of those people who skipped forward in the video thinking I don't need the foundations part, remember that's where all the success is determined. Success is determined by understanding your target audience to a T, so you don't waste time sending messages or spending ad spend in the wrong places. It's then your value proposition. Can you clearly explain that to someone in a very short sentence or two? And do you have a bribe? Do you have something that's going to get someone to want to get in contact with you? Because it's a cold conversation. It's not like you've been referred. You need something enticing to get someone to want to get in contact with you. So once you have all that sorted, then you can start doing your manual lead generation, your LinkedIn ads. Very simple processes, just follow the tips I've given you. Now, if you're still struggling, or if you just want someone to do it all for you, because it is a lot of work and there is a lot of nuance and there is a lot of learning and going back and through the cycle over and over again. If you want someone to help you, my company, Tech Growth Marketing, we are currently offering free growth strategy sessions. We will talk through everything you're doing at present and we'll figure out what's going wrong, tell you what's going wrong so you can objectively see what you need to fix. And then we'll also show you what you can do to massively improve your situation to boost growth. That call is entirely free. We do also have services such as paid for LinkedIn ads, where we do LinkedIn ads for you entirely. We also have a consultation service whereby for a one-off payment, we give you everything we have, all of our templates, so you can do it all yourself, but not waste time guessing because you just have all the templates. To get to any of that, all you need to do is, as I say, link in the description below, just apply for the free growth strategy session. Now, I really hope this video has helped you. If you have any questions or anything, by all means, leave a comment. I get back to every single person. And if there's something you want to see that I didn't cover in this video, or maybe not even related to this video, but there is something you want help with, you want to see, again, leave it in a comment and I will make content based on what you request. I've done it before and I'll do it again, and I really appreciate the feedback that you guys give in terms of what content you want to hear. So thank you very much for watching. I thoroughly hope this video has helped set your mind at rest. If you're doing something you weren't sure it was the right approach, now you should know if it's the right approach, because we've tried everything I've just talked about. We've seen massive success with both manual lead generation and with ads. We have seen some with content as well, but as I say, it's harder to get quick results, which is why I focus on those too. Hope this video has helped. Apply for the free strategy session, subscribe, like, etc. Thanks for watching.